in class we're going to continue the conversation of mindfulness and negotiation, zeroing in on the meat of what Professor Leonard Riskin writes about in his Law Review article. That article will be very helpful to you in many ways, not the least of which is that it talks about what mindfulness is, because it's writing to an audience that doesn't know much or anything about mindfulness. It also takes a technique that's not a mindfulness technique, but a negotiation technique, in this case the core concerns, which, as the authors of the book using emotions as you negotiate, write and find, can be helpful when a negotiation or a conversation gets a little bit heated. There are the 5 core concerns. In class, you should be able to rattle off the 5 core concerns off the top of your head. And thus far, if you haven't already this week, be bringing it into your interactions with others. Most every interaction you have, in some ways, could be looked at as a negotiation. Sometimes it's quite explicit. You're literally negotiating, and that's part of the process that you're engaging in with somebody else to achieve some, negotiated outcome. But even if you're talking with somebody about where to go for dinner and you're not necessarily in complete agreement, or any of a variety of other day-to-day conversations, you will find that it's a bit of a negotiation. And they're all opportunities to bring consideration of the core concerns into that negotiation. Importantly, as we began to discuss, and as Leonard Riskin writes about in his Law Review article, and as the authors of the book write about in the book, these 5 core concerns can be used as a lens to understand a little bit better what's taking place and causing a disruption in the otherwise perhaps smooth flow discussion, and also can be used as a lever to be able to draw upon to manipulate, if you will, or to adjust the other person's negative state to bring a more positive emotional state, which is where, as Professor Riskin discusses in the paper, we find more creative opportunities to, and ideas, and an interest in a motivation to collaborate effectively with somebody, as opposed to withdrawing and retreating, which tends to happen when the emotional state drops. So this is a reminder to be thinking about appreciation and autonomy and status and role, etc., in your conversations with other people, or upon reflection after you have an exchange that maybe doesn't go so well, so that you can have a real world experience and go, oh, I bet they didn't feel appreciated. Oh, I bet they didn't feel a sense of affiliation or connection. Oh, it looks like their role was taken away, and you go, and it provides a little bit of insight perhaps, and importantly, for yourself. If you're in an interaction with somebody or a discussion and you leave it feeling a little down, or you're in class and you just have an interaction that's not even an interpersonal one, but just the way it plays out, you feel a little heavier in the emotional state, you can check in on those and find that probably, in all likelihood, I would suggest, one or more of those have been influenced. Sometimes even our own conversations that we have in our head, where the self-judgmental, critical thoughts can, in fact, work a very similar effect on our sense of well-being and our energy and our enthusiasm and our motivation, etc. So it doesn't even have to be a negotiation or an interaction with somebody else. It can be our own internal narrative playing out, which is, of course, what gets to the heart of the me-gotiation as well as the negotiation. So a reminder of just how this Law Review article and the core concerns are very much meant to be a real-world application that you're able to draw upon in whatever circumstance you choose, because that allows it to become much more readily available and useful when we find ourselves in the serious negotiations that our clients perhaps are looking to us and paying us to effectuate well, and or we find ourselves in any of a variety of situations, both professionally and personally.